Hey everyone, and welcome to another Factorio Friday Facts. I'm Exterminator, and thank you for joining me today. We are going over 415, Fix, Improve, and Optimize. It's a pretty short one today, and I'm going to do some summarization because there's a fair bit of technical, but I think if you are a technical-oriented person or just generally enjoy these type of Friday Facts, you should definitely give this a read because I think you'd find it interesting. So it's written by Rseding, who is kind of, I consider him like their resident optimizer. He's just so good at optimizing things, really, really great at finding bugs like this and just making the whole game run smoother and stuff like that behind the scenes. It's pretty awesome. So he starts off by saying, with a lot of time of 2.0 development has been spent on new features and quality of life, we still take care of the smaller details and technical improvements, which is great, right? That's part of what makes the Factorio team so great, is that they don't just put in a bunch of new shiny things and then everything else is broken, like a lot of games, but they actually improve the small things too. So deterministic multi-threading is hard. Basically, what this goes into is there was a reported bug, and it involving the modding API in multiple Windows and Linux computers that the player was using. So Rseding's first instinct was just to blame the mod developer for doing something wrong, but he's seen enough bug reports where, realized probably shouldn't dismiss that, or shouldn't dismiss it right away. But he could not reproduce the desync, but the player was able to do it like really consistently almost every time, and he was kind of having a hard time figuring it out. So after several failed attempts on his end to reproduce it, BotsKid, using his multiple computers, was able to. So basically, he still goes further into saying that like a huge part of bug fixing is actually trying to reproduce the issue. It's like 95% of the time spent fixing those bugs. And with Bosca reproducing the issue on demand, he was able to narrow it down to the fact that computers had different numbers of CPU cores. With that newfound knowledge, he was able to make a test that could be run on his single computer to reproduce his desync by artificially pretending I had less cores than I did, which is pretty interesting. So the problem actually ended up needing 4 different moving pieces to all come together to expose a threading determinism issue that has been in the game since I put it there. I like he says that he put it there in July 2017, which is crazy. That was like 7 years ago. And Amon needed to, so basically it goes like Amon needed to listen to the chunk generated event and change the tiles on a chunk when it happened. A mod needed to request several chunks to be generated, and then it needed to force all requested chunks to be generated right now, and the game needed to be run on 2 computers with a different number of CPU cores. And the logic to generate the chunks right now would attempt to use all of your available CPU cores, but was done in a way that the number of cores, when combined with the other moving pieces, would change the chunk generation results slightly. And yeah, it wasn't super complex, and it will be in 2.0, which is awesome. Just go to show that multi-threading is hard, deterministic multi-threading even more so. So, it's kind of an edge case, but generally just having that fix there is really good. Excuse me, I had to take a sip of water. And multiplayer autopause. So goes into the autopausing. So if you didn't know, you can set up like a dedicated headless server basically, and you can have it so that when the last player leaves, when no one's on it, it autopauses, which is great because you don't really necessarily want it running in the background. Sometimes you do, and you can just turn that off. But if you're playing with enemies or something, you probably don't, right? But there are some edge cases that they never got around to handling, right? They say case 1, when you join the autopause server, it instantly resumes running even if you haven't fully loaded into the game. It turns out this was incredibly simple to address. Just for some reason it fell through the cracks over the years. For 2.0, autopause servers will stay paused until at least one player has fully loaded, which is great. Case 2, joining players need to catch up to the running game. Right, this works great for normal games and allows the existing players to continue without having to wait for the joining players, but players run into issues with much larger maps, which I've experienced quite a bit, or slow internet connection. Someone joining might take 1, 2, or several minutes to download, load, and catch up the server fully if it continues on without them. So for 2.0, we've added an option to auto pause when a player is joining, which works exactly as it says. So yeah, this is a toggleable option, thankfully, because there are cases, obviously, like he said, where you don't want that because you don't want the game to pause every single time someone joins. But if you're doing like a mega base or something and it takes forever for a player to catch up, you do need to pause. And we have to do this manually now. Like sometimes you just have to pause and let the player catch up. But if you just turn this on, then that can help that, which is super great. And then the last section is faster construction robot tasks. So there's kind of a lot in this section, although most of it is actually just the picture. But the problem is that construction robots often have tasks pending due to slow checks for available robots, especially in large logging networks. And the current system checks tasks 3 times per update, leading to the 600 jobs missing materials alert. So where that comes in is that they say it feels like every week they have someone saying, why aren't my construction robots working? In this screenshot they provide, there's a little alert showing 600 jobs missing materials and robots. The issue has been there since the beginning of robots, and still today we don't have a nice solution for it. So that's where that bit came from. But basically, the problem is that, what I just said is it does the check, right? And we do not control how slow that's going to be because the player can build 1 report or 100,000, or as many as the computer can take. So they need to make sure that the operation doesn't grind the game to a halt while it runs. We do this by only processing a few construction robot tasks each tick. And more specifically, they say in 1.1 the game will check, so currently the game will check construction jobs 3 times per game update, and if it fails to find a robot, it will stop for the current update. Alerts for failed attempts last for 10 seconds, hence there's 60 updates per second, hence the 600 alerts, right? And it worked this way like forever, basically since Rseding started working on Factorio. And they say earlier this year, someone, here's a forum post link if you want to read that, ran across the issue again, but they decided to solve it themselves by doing what we said we can't, crank up the check task per update, except they went from 1 per update to 374. Also, they built 36,815 row ports, which is insane. It was, as predicted, slow. Yeah, this looks really painful for their computer. I can't even imagine. But it did kind of give Rseding an idea. What if he could make the slow part a lot faster, like changing the algorithm faster? So he was hit by inspiration when he remembered that they have a set of logic in the game already to take the row port logic instruction areas and compute the resulting rectangle union. In simple terms, what it does is produce a nice set of duplicated rectangles that cover the total area for all the roboports. So they use this for rendering to avoid a lot of overdraw when roboports are near each other. And then that, combined with sorting the resulting rectangles, meant I could do a simple binary search to check if a given task was within the network area. In the end, the check went from this to on this amount of roboports to that on 900 to this on 900 rectangle union areas. So the time check isn't in the network, went from expensive to essentially free. With that speed up, I was able to crank up the speed task to get check for 2.0 and hopefully put this issue to rest, which is awesome. So we don't know exactly like how much faster it is, but this hopefully should alleviate issues like this where it takes forever for like the robots to catch up with the tasks and you get all these alerts. And I think this, combined with one of the optimizations they went into quite a while ago at this point about smarter robots, where it actually assigns like robots closest to the task rather than assigning something from halfway across your base, and a few other things, better charging and such. I think those combined with this, overall, I hope, I pretty much know, I think we're going to find that robots and robot building and play is going to be so much better when you combine these, and maybe even more stuff they haven't mentioned yet or they haven't come across yet that they end up changing. But overall, I think this is just going to be fantastic. I've been, ever since reading that other Friday Facts about the other optimizations for the robots, like the better selection for tasks and charging and stuff, I seem to be finding myself getting more annoyed with using robots now because I don't have that, and I know it will be a thing, and I'm just like, I think it was like last stream or the stream before I put in a request to build something, and like all my bots, my personal bots with my power armor had the materials on me, and my roboport was on, and they did nothing. And it's because it called bots from literally like the opposite side of the base to come build these things. And this is nothing new. This has been the case forever. But just knowing that that's going to be fixed almost makes it more annoying to play with. But anyway, that's a tangent. This is great. I know it's like kind of short and technical. Maybe nothing like super ooh and ah like graphically or new features, but it is great like behind the scenes optimization stuff, which I do love, right? Because I love building big bases. Anyone else who does, will find these changes super impactful. And I believe that's going to be it, folks. We'll see what we have next week. I was actually waiting, one last note before you go. I was waiting for this Friday Facts to do an updated version of like a summary of everything we know coming in 2.0 features, QoL stuff, optimizations. And I did one like several months ago, but I think it's definitely time to do a new one. I was waiting for this just in case they went into more stuff about Gleba. But now that we have this, regardless of what this is, this Friday Facts, I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So keep an eye out for that. I'm hoping maybe Sunday. If not, then early to mid next week, I plan to get that out with an update of just like everything we know coming, because it's super easy to forget. There's so much now. But if you did enjoy and are excited for these changes and think they'll help your game, definitely leave a like. And if you're new and aren't subscribed already, feel free to keep up with all future content. And again, leave your thoughts and stuff down below. I do love hearing that. But until next time, I look forward to seeing you all, and do take care.